Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this daily Hindu analysis video. In the morning these videos come, in the evening the PIB videos come, both in Hindi and in English language. And 14th of March, some important data is there. A lot of articles are there in today's newspaper, around 7 articles are there, and some data we are going to discuss. And I have adjusted these important facts into MCQs that I am giving to you daily. So in PIB and in this Hindu analysis video, never miss any data, any MCQ. Certainly you will see some of these data into UPSC Prelims examination paper this year. So let's start. Life is a consistent struggle and winners are those who enjoy it. I had told you this thing earlier also, that the people who are expecting a lot of pleasure, a lot of relaxation, a lot of money, fame, everything, if today they are getting all of these things, then certainly time would be there in the future that they would see a lot of pain, trouble and stress, because the quota is fixed. It has happened to nobody in this world that always the happy phase was there in the life. Every time it's a kind of a balance which would be there, and the phases, they will keep changing. It is not like that always you will have a negative phase or always you will have a positive phase. Always be prepared for the negative phase, and that is why life is a struggle. The person who understands this thing, he is never bothered about the negative phase and he can easily pass that negative phase and enjoy the positive one. If any person is always expecting a positive phase, then he won't be able to face that negative phase of life, and it would be difficult for him to deal with that negative phase, and at that time he may go into depression or he may struggle a lot. So always understand this thing, that struggle is important, it is necessary, and it is the part of our cycle of life. And any person who enjoys this struggling phase, then he would be the winner. Next, MCQs that I gave to you yesterday. Glycerated saline. You see, in the tough terrains like Siachen and all, where temperatures are below 0 degrees centigrade, the treatment for the wounded soldiers, that becomes impossible, because at that temperature many of these medical devices and these medical solutions and all, they don't work. So glycerated saline, it can save many lives. And when the issue of golden hour, means the 1 hour time after the accident or after the wounding, then that particular hour is called golden hour, because maximum number of lives can be saved if the treatment is available within this golden hour. So this glycerated saline, it can help a lot, okay, because it is the quality that it can work up to minus 18 degrees centigrade of temperature. That means the second statement is wrong and first is right. Okay, so only one is the correct answer here. PNAC is the guided weapon system. Many times I have explained this issue. I have showed you pictures also in the PIB lesson. So this is guided weapon system, multi-barrel rocket system. International Arms Transfer 2018 report, where it was in the list that we are the second largest importer, Saudi Arabia is the first largest importer, and it was by SIPRI, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. So none is the answer here. Next, under Model Code of Conduct, that thing I have also explained to you, that it starts from the announcement of the schedule of the election and it will end after the announcement of the results. Okay, so third statement is wrong, and second is also wrong, because it talks about manifesto, because it is a moral code. There is no statutory backing or there is no constitutional backing. It is only a moral code, and a level playing field for all the candidates is aimed with this. So it certainly talks about manifesto, and only ministers are allowed. No, they are not allowed. They cannot use their official vehicles for their political campaigning. So all these three are wrong here. D1 is the answer. Next, under CRPF, Rapid Action Force, which works in rioting scenarios, anti-riot forces, it is always called, and Cobra Force in the Naxalite operations. Commandos, the battalion for resolute action, as it is called, and they both come under CRPF, and always they are deployed in these kind of scenarios. Rashtriya Rifles is a different paramilitary service under CAPF. Under CAPF, Armed Police Forces, there are 7 paramilitary services. CRPF, Rashtriya Rifles are among these 7. So 1 and 2 is the correct answer here. Next, Helicobacter. It's a bacteria and it can cause cancer of stomach because it stays in stomach and it can weaken the lining of the wall of the stomach. So D9 is the answer. It's not a virus, it's a bacteria and it can cause stomach cancer. These are the words that I found today, and we talk about the articles today. You see, many articles which are there in the newspaper, we have actually discussed all these things in much detail. I have showed you the picture of Kurdistan and all, and I told you that how this Syrian democratic force was raised by USA and they took the help of Kurds fighters, and out of their proficiency they were able to suppress the IS group there. And today the condition is like that. If we leave a particular small village in the eastern part of Syria, all other territories are free of ISIS dominance. But certainly all the scholars, all the important leaders, and even the president of Iraq, he also said that caliphate has been eliminated, but there are sleeper cells and extremist groups on the Syrian border which need to be taken care of. That means ISIS concept is not dead, and territories are lost, but certainly they would stay. And we all need to make a grand strategy, a global strategy for these terror groups, because these are non-state actors, these are not states. So any kind of escalation against any state is not going to solve the problem. So it is also applied to India-Pakistan situation also. That action against the state of Pakistan will not solve the problem, because these are stealth things, these are covert actions by these groups, and these are sponsored by Pakistan. So that is why the grand strategy is needed, where we need to take care about these sleeper cells and these stealth active members of these groups and the ideology that is spread on social media and all. And here the writer is giving the example of Shamima's story. Shamima was a teenage girl from Britain. Her parents were from Bangladesh and she was a citizen of Britain. But at the age of 17-18, she left Britain and she went to Syria to fight out of this radicalized provocation and all, and she went there to fight. And now Sabina Begum has known everything about this ideology and the kind of exploitation, sexual exploitation, the abuse she has been bearing there. So now she knows that everything is scary and everything is dirty here, and nothing productive can come out of this particular ideology, and she wants to come back, but she was not allowed. And you see, it's a psychological issue also, because when teenagers, they are provoked, they are radicalized, then it's the issue of society, of also it's the issue of culture also, it's the issue of governance also, it's the issue of intelligence also, because we cannot say that 100% mistake is there of that particular boy or a girl, because they are teenagers, they do not have that maturity. So we need to take care about these situations. And you see, there is the reason that teenagers from India, they are not joining ISIS anywhere, because India has a certain culture and we have some eye on our kids. All the things are changing in cities, but certainly we have always some vigil over our kids. So there is a reason that culture plays a bigger role here. And in these foreign countries, parents, they hardly know anything about their teenager kids and all, whom they are meeting, whom they are being friends with. So here it was a kind of a ignorance, a kind of a carelessness by the culture, by the society, by the parents. So these kids were vulnerable, and these terror groups, they could easily radicalize them. And out of this radicalization, she went there. Now she wants to come back, but she was not allowed because security reasons are there. It may be a situation that she has been converted into a sleeper cell, and she would come back to Britain and she would do some terror activities in the future. This may be there. Sleeper cells, as we all know, we saw in the movie of Holiday, a Bollywood movie of Akshay Kumar. So the same phenomena, the sleeper cells, we don't know about anybody that what kind of ideology or what is there inside that person's mind. He is living a normal life, but we don't know, and he happens to be a terrorist, but we don't know about that, and he lives among us. So these are sleeper cells. So maybe Syrian these terror groups, they are converting people into sleeper cells, because open confrontation is not possible now, because they have suppressed them to the much extent. Although some angles are there of this problem where Kurds are being attacked by Erdogan regime of Turkey, and USA is withdrawing from there, so some confusions remain there. But certainly it is the issue of ISIS existence, that the existence is not vanished and it would stay, and it has spread into many other hidden areas, or maybe certain heights are available for groups like ISIS. But you see, the connection is there between these terror groups, whether we talk about Taliban, ISIS, or Lashkar-e-Taiba, or Jaish-e-Mohammed, or something like that. They all have their linkages, and they all need a grand strategy. So that is why we need to take care about all the situations, social situation, cultural situations, and maximum focus should be there on our intelligence robustness. That should not fail anywhere. We should have a network of a kind of a great surveillance over these suspects, these particular groups. If anybody we found to be under suspicion, then certainly we should track everything about that group or a person. So the security establishment should be really great and way better than the existing system that we have, and especially the country like India, which is lacking in many areas. So here we should take care about all these things. And in the issue of Shamima's story, there was a humanitarian angle also, because her kid that died 2 days back, and it created a lot of emotions in favor of that child. So that kid was struggling with pneumonia, and she was pleading that please allow me to come back to my home country as Britain, and I want the treatment there. But she was not allowed because of these reasons. So there is a dilemma, a great dilemma between the humanity and the terror threat, that out of humanity we may allow some things, and we may allow some leniency, and we may not do some kind of surveillance over some people, or we may not be harsh on some suspects. But the terror threat actually stops us from dealing with these things in the way that is called somewhat cruel or harsh. But we need to be cruel, because the terror threat remains, and many lives, lakhs of lives of the people, that those are under threat. So that is the reason that there is a dilemma for agencies, for authorities, for governments, and for the whole world, because in which way we should manage this thing. So that is why the strategy is needed, and the maximum help is available with the security establishment and the more advancement of systems. Okay, so we need to see, it is this scenario that cautions against any optimism with regard to the IAS and its future. That organization in its present format may not rear its head in the future, but its followers who have exited Iraq and Syria can find a ready acceptance elsewhere. This is a real challenge to intelligence apparatuses world over. Here R.K. Raghavan said, he is a former CBI director, he said that when it is the issue of sleeper cells, then both angles are given here in this article. One is the humanitarian angle, that she should have been allowed because she was a teenager and she made a mistake, and she should have taken back because she understood all these things, and it was her age when she was radicalized. But the different angle of sleeper cells, that is also very scary. So both things we need to see, and the maximum help always there with the robust security and intelligence systems. That the same issue is applied here in India-Pakistan relations also, because non-state actors, these terror groups, they are attacking us in a covert manner. So in the same way we should respond, because war is not an option between both these countries. Unpredictable consequences should always be avoided. In the recent streak of events where after attack we were forced to attack Pakistan's territory, and after that our pilot was captured, and whole issue was diverted to a different situation, and now some compromising situation evolved for India. So unpredictable consequences are always not fruitful and they should be avoided, and always we should have a perfect strategy. Today the situations show, according to the writer, situations show that India is unprepared for a serious game. If this would have been a war, then we don't know what would have been the future. Certainly we would have won this battle, but after a very long struggle and lakhs of lives lost, and we don't know if this would have been a nuclear attack by any of the country, then the situation would have gone very wrong, seriously dangerous. So the best help is available with the security establishment. Otherwise, all these things we had discussed in the past regarding what is happening, what has happened, and what just went by, what happened in the media, and what kind of embarrassment is there for India, what kind of achievement is there for India. And certainly we had put some pressure on Pakistan, but how much Pakistan is gonna pay heed to that is to be thought of. And the internal situation of Pakistan, we should always have a vigil on that situation, and always these avenues where some experts and some positive people, they want to bring a solution for this problem. They should not stop talking. Maybe in a third country they can meet, and these kind of strategies, they should not stop. Maybe there are actions on the border, maybe there are active defense strategies are going on, but these talks, they should never stop. You see, in the World War II also, World War I also, when countries were fighting, some leaders were meeting on the table, and they only brought the solution, because the solution can be only there on the tables. So that is the thing. Next, in this article, it's not important for us because it's a religious crisis in a sense, but actual crisis is political. It started from religion, but politics took over, and for the advantage of politics, they hailed it as the issue of our spirituality, the issue of our religion, issue of our belief system. They hailed it like this, but it was not that kind of issue that we have today. It's more a political one. So religio-political, and now a constitutional one also, because everything is going on in the Supreme Court, and the last resort of the Supreme Court. But you see, now new channels are being brought up apart from the constitutional methods. Now mediation is being devised here, and 3 mediators are declared, but 1 mediator among them, the Sri Ravi Shankar, that religious leader, he is a very controversial person, and his past shows us that he is not the suitable person for the job, and certainly he may bring some very negative consequences here if he continues to behave in that manner, in a way he was behaving in the past, in the way he was being controversial. If he continues that strategy, then certainly it is going to be very negative here. And you see, the 8 weeks time, according to the writer, 8 weeks time that is given here for to these mediators, that coincides with the election campaign period. You see, that is going on, this election campaign period is going on, and this particular 8 weeks time ends just before voting ends. Means you can see the thing here, you can see the angle here. This mediation, a controversial person, and what is the time? Election time, when voting is going on, and certainly they cannot go on heavy-handed campaigning and all. But in the media, this issue would remain on the top. As we have seen, after the Pulwama attack incident, after the Abhinandans coming back, everything has shifted towards Ram Mandir, as was expected. So this is the election time, and media has no restraint these days, and authorities are not evaluating the media ways, the way they are behaving, the way they are provoking the situations, and the way they are disturbing the lives of the common person of this country. Every day we discuss about that. So this issue would remain in the top, and when a mediator is a person like Sri Ravi Shankar, and it is going to be the election time, these votings will go on, and this particular mediation will also go at the same time. So what kind of consequences can be there? Is it going to have any political connection or not? That any layman can understand. So this is the issue, and the writer says that although the mediation is a good thing, but the timing is really questionable, and it is welcomed that you are devising a out of the court way, but this issue has become like this, that there cannot be any solution out of the court, and it's a constitutional crisis now. We need to manage this situation in a broader aspect, and in a constitutional framework we need to discuss that. So rest of the article talks about the past of it and the way the things have developed, and in the end what is the solution here and what is being done here, that we have discussed. So not much is important for the prelims. Next, regarding the economy, you see the IIP index that gave us some problematic data here, because the election time is going on, and the peak time for speculations. No investor wants to invest anywhere. That is why it's a kind of a very low phase, a phase of decline for whole economy, all the sectors. Industrial production is at 1.3%. Last year at the same time it was at 8.7%. Industrial output growth slumped to 1.7%, and it was 7.5% a year earlier. And job creating industries like textile, leather, pharmaceutical, rubber, plastic, they are nowhere supporting the jobs. Already they were struggling, already there was very high rates of unemployment, and this time is the worst one. Capital goods and the capital expenditure, as we call capex, that is the precursor for any kind of boost in the economy, any kind of demand supply mechanism that is forced by capital expenditure. That is also at all-time low, 3.2%, and it was 12.4% last year. 1.8% is the consumer durables output, and that was at 7.6% in January 18. And the inflation scenario, that is also problematic here. How this is problematic? This is not problematic for the urban population. They can afford things at a cheaper rate, and always the situation is like this that before elections everything becomes cheaper, and food inflation has been very low for the last 2-3 years. We have been experiencing this, but it is creating havoc on the farmers who are producing these vegetables, fruits, and crops and pulses. The prices are not reaching up to those people. It is also a great problem of mediators, but it is also a pricing issue, because they are bound to throw their crops on the road. They are bound to throw their production of milk, onion, or anything, tomatoes. They are throwing them on the roads because it is not viable for them. If the cost is incurred that is way more than this particular price that they are getting today, then they will throw these things because there is no meaning. So it is a time, it's a unique time where inflation is under control. It is around 4% ideal rate, because 4% is declared by this monetary policy committee, and plus and minus 2% can be the margin, means 2 to 6% is the safe limit. So it is under that. 2.57% is the current inflation rate. So in this scenario there is no problem of a kind of inflation. So RBI can go towards a rate cut, because investment is not rising, and for investment we need to lower the rate. So rate cut are actually need of the hour, rate cuts. So in the second meeting of this MPC this year, next month, one more interest rate cut we may see here, because the conditions are like that. Otherwise, if this investment would have been going up, then we never needed any further rate cut. But investment is low and inflation is also low. That is why rate cuts are needed here. Okay, so you must have understood the concept here. And the crude oil prices issue. Saudi Arabia is committed to deepening its production cuts in order to keep crude oil prices well supported, because it is struggling with the international prices, and they are not meeting their ends. So that is why they will cut the production more and more. So prices will go up. So it will not be a very positive phase for a longer period of time for India, and inflation is certainly gonna rise soon. So this is the time when RBI is going for rate cut now. Next heavy-handed order, it is regarding an issue where Shillong Times in Meghalaya is guilty of contempt according to Meghalaya's High Court order. There was an issue when the Shillong Times criticized the move by High Court. The offending comments appeared to imply that the directions regarding extending facilities including protocol services, domestic help, reimbursing communication bills up to 10,000 rupees a month, and mobile phone worth rupees 80,000. These all facilities were for retired judges, and Shillong Times, it published a report that judges judging for themselves. It's a problematic situation when you are reimbursing 80,000 rupees phone price and 10,000 rupees a month phone bill. That means it's nowhere justified. But court said, how dare you that you talk about High Court's decisions, High Court's judgments. That's why it's a problematic situation, because it is going very sharp on Shillong Times. High Court said that we may put a ban on you and you will need to pay a fine of 2 lakh rupees each. You see, fine is okay, and this heavy-handedness is okay, and being harsh on a newspaper is okay, but putting a ban is nowhere in the provision. That the editor wants to say. And here it says that it's a particular ambience when dissenters are in deep trouble. They are being punished very heavily by all authorities, by all political groups, and the public outrage is also against these dissenters. So dissenting views are under severe threat in this country for the last 3-4 years. And in this same streak of events, when courts are also coming very harsh on dissenters, it's a problematic situation. So there are many questions on the judiciary also these days, because you cannot put a ban. It was a tendency of Britishers in those colonial times. These things used to happen. So we cannot say that this ban on the newspaper is going to be justified. Okay, this matter was not resolved on the administrative side for 2 months, and then court initiated suo moto proceedings. Means it was a suo moto. Court itself took this issue, and now it became so harsh on the newspaper, that Shillong Times. So it's a problematic situation. These things should not go in this direction. That is the thing. Whatever is happening today, that we can understand, but in which way this is going, that is much more problematic. Next, RBI to inject liquidity via forex swaps. Normally, to manage the liquidity situation, liquidity means whatever money that is moving in the market. Okay, if it is too much, that means inflation is gonna rise. If it is less than the average amount, then deflation would follow, or less inflation can be there, or maybe stagnation phase would be there. So both situations are not supportive of a good economics. So they need to manage the liquidity situation in the country, and main method that is always used is open market operations. Under open market operations, what they do, what RBI does, RBI sells the government securities when inflation is there and too much of liquidity is there in the economy. Means more money is flowing, means high liquidity, means high inflation. And at that time, what we need to do, RBI sells government securities and it sucks the extra money from the market. Means I would give money to RBI, and RBI would hand over me the government securities, and after some years I will have my amount back with the good interest on that money. So this is how RBI sucks money. So it's a step during the high liquidity situation, and during low liquidity, what it does, RBI is gonna buy that securities back, and it will give this money with interest to the normal public or to the market back, and that money would be going towards investment or some other other way. This money is gonna come to market, because people will have their money back and they will go to market and they will buy something. So again, markets are going to be bolstered here. So this happens during low liquidity situation. Low liquidity means low inflation, okay, prices are low and economy is stagnated. So RBI gives the money back to the customers, and these customers, they will go to market and they will buy something. So low liquidity and high liquidity, and these are open market operations, and main thing is government securities here. This is the normal way, but now because there is a negative consequence of heavy dependence on open market operations, banks are in trouble. You see, if more interest rates are given on these securities, then I am going to buy government security than investing in the bank. I will not go to the bank and I will not buy any kind of fixed deposit. I will go to RBI and I will buy the government security. So in this situation, banks are in trouble, and there are some other consequences also, and somewhat it is distorting. Heavy dependence on open market operations is also distorting. So a new way RBI is gonna apply here, first of its kind instrument used for liquidity management, that is buy and sell these forex swaps. What are forex swaps? Means our currency is different, America's currency is different, and sometimes if you want to buy some cheap loans, then these currency swaps are done between these countries. It's a kind of agreement, and cheaper loans are available. We don't need to go towards international market. Directly we will talk to that country. And for the liquidity management issue also, although technicalities are very deep, so we don't need to delve into these details, but in the simple terms you can understand this thing, that for the liquidity management situation also, since 1980s, these international bodies, Federal Reserve and all, they are allowing forex swaps for these liquidity management, mainly in the developing countries also. So we are gonna use this method, and forex swaps would be done for injecting more liquidity, because it is the time where low inflation is there and investment is not rising, and for this boost that is needed for the investment, we need much more liquidity. So liquidity has been a crucial issue this year, and certainly one question would be asked on the liquidity situation and on this open market operation situation and for these rate cuts, because all these things are related to the liquidity aspect. Next, these are the map points. You may point out these things on the atlas and search some additional data also with these MCQs also. Okay, these are important. I have framed them according to the current datas, and certainly you will see some questions in the prelims this year. And again, I'm saying try to find the additional information regarding this. Anybody, any agency, any nodal implementing agency, if it is there, any ministry that is involved here. So find about all initiatives, all datas. Thanks a lot. And the PDF you will get here, and the Telegram channel link will also be found here on this particular group. Thanks a lot.